It is 9 o'clock on May the 4th, 2020, and this is the Commissioners Court of Kerr County is in session for a special meeting today. And the first item on the agenda is about cell phones. We have two cell phones up here, one for the people to call in, which is 792-6161, and it is up here to receive those calls. We have another phone up here that we have the county attorney present by phone, and we have another phone, my personal phone, that may go off, and if it does, I'm going to excuse myself and step out. I have an important call I need to take, and Commissioner Letts will take over and preside over the court at that time. Next item on the agenda is public input. And so any of you out there, I know we had some people that were interested in calling in. This is your opportunity to call in and offer us whatever input you would like. I have the 792-6161 number here if anybody wants to call in. I'm going to leave that here for the time being. And let's start with Commissioner's comments, and then if anybody calls in, we'll interrupt to take the input. So, let me describe for everybody what you're seeing here. Commissioners Court is trying to observe the governor's executive order of social distancing of at least 6 feet. You'll see we have Commissioner 4 and Commissioner 1 down at the tables here in front of the dais, and we have Commissioners 3 and 2 up at the dais with me. And what we're trying to do is to maintain 6 feet social distancing. Out in the courtroom, if you could see them, we do have a couple of visitors here and other people, and the chairs are stacked and spread about 6 feet apart, and they're sitting 6 feet apart out there. So we are observing all the social distancing requirements. So with that, why don't we start down at the tables first and start with Commissioner 1. Commissioner Ballou, anything to report?
No, sir.
Okay, and Commissioner 4, Commissioner Harris.
It's good to see people going back to the restaurants and everything, even opening them up. Some of the reports are it's still they were top heavy with the to-go orders and what have you. So at least it's good to see some business get back going all around the county.
Good. Commissioner Moser.
I was down at Flat Rock Park a couple of times this past weekend, and a lot of people down there. They seem to be social distancing to a great extent, but a large number of people utilizing the park, which is really good.
And my only comment is that we've gone from being a fairly wet year to an extremely dry year very quickly, so people need to be careful with fires. Anyone burning brush, it's not quite like it was a month ago, and hopefully we'll get some rain before long.
Or really even a week ago.
A week ago.
I mowed the lawn yesterday and it was all dust. So. And the only thing I would offer is that I'm still wearing a mask because two people have asked me to do that. One is my wife, who is in surgery this morning, which is the reason I'm going to take the call. And the other is the Lieutenant Governor, who strongly recommended that we wear masks. But it's not an order. This is all voluntary, and I'm doing this to protect other people. So, is there anyone that's called in for input? We haven't received a call yet. So let's go to item 1.1 on the agenda, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the update, facility use, and other matters related to COVID-19. Deb Thomas.
Morning, Judge. Morning, Commissioners. All right, this is SITREP, or Situation Report number 8. This is the 8th week we've been into the COVID-19 reporting. The EOC activation level, the EOC stands for Emergency Operations Center. The Kerr County, City of Kerrville, and City of Ingram EOC is still activated. We're still operating at an increased readiness level, and Annex H, the Health and Medical Annex, is still in effect. And we're still in pandemic phase Plan 3. EOC is still operating with full staff, but we're continuing to work remotely again to honor the social distancing just like everybody else is. And the call center continues to be open for citizens needing information. Our current situation: on April 27th, Governor Abbott announced the first phase of the plan to open Texas while minimizing the spread of COVID-19. Under Phase 1, certain services and activities are allowed to open with limited occupancy, and DSHS, or the Department of State Health Services, also released some minimum standard health protocols. April 17th, a couple weeks ago, Governor Abbott issued the executive order to provide Texas with an outline for reopening the state. Y'all have seen this before, starting at 12:01 a.m. Friday. All retail services that are not essential, we're able to provide services through pickup, delivery by mail, etc. Most of that is moot now that he has started the reopening of Texas Phase 1. Our COVID-19 continues to spread according to DSHS and the CDC. You have there the numbers for you that were effective or updated as of yesterday at 11:45 for Texas. Texas has had 31,548 total cases. The United States 1.1 million, 3.5 million worldwide. Total deaths for Texas 867, United States 665,735, 248,000 worldwide. Total recovered for Texas is 15,544. I still think that's an outstanding number and needs to be stressed more than the number of people affected or deaths. USA is 178,671 people have recovered. Worldwide, 1.1 million, actually over 1.1 now. Testing continues in the state. So far, the state of Texas has run 390,560 tests. Private labs have run 377,000 of those. Public labs, a little over 13,000. The surrounding counties, these are total cases as of yesterday that they've had. Kendall County has had 16. Medina County has had 20 with 2 fatalities. Llano 3, Blanco 6. Burnett bumped up 4 or 5 cases to 19. Kerr County has had 5, Gillespie 3, and Bandera 6. For the Department of State Health Services Region 8, for which Kerr County is a member of, they've had 885 active cases, 950 people have recovered, and 72 deaths.
Hey, Doug,
Yes, sir.
and maybe you're going to get to it, but when you go through the statistics of deaths recovered, testing, could you just add Kerr County to that? Because you got the world, USA, Texas. Just add another column or another
Sure.
entry of Kerr County.
Kerr County
That's
is,
what people are really interested
at
in.
the current time, Kerr County still has 1 active case and 4 recovered.
Okay, if you could just add that, that would be.
Yeah, I can start
that'd be
adding that.
great.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Doug, do you have any details on Mason County?
Just what the sheriff informed me about this morning is they've got, what, 24 cases. Most of those were out of the courthouse and the municipal,
City county meeting.
from a city-county meeting. It just exploded over there. That's the only information I've got.
And Dub, do you know the counties, I know over half the counties in the state, the governor said, had 5 or fewer positive cases, and were able to expand their opening capacity from 25% to 50%. From what I can tell, and I don't know if you know all of the counties that were able to expand to 50%, it looks like Kerr County is the largest by population of all the counties that opened 50%.
I wouldn't know that, Judge. I'd have to look at them, but there are a lot of Texas counties that were able to open because they had less than 5.
Well, if you would look into that, because I think if that's the case, I'm very proud that we're the biggest county that was able to open up 50% because we had 5 or fewer.
Well, I'm just glad we were able to do it. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Deb, go back to one thing that's on businesses, belt, pennies and things like that. What's the status of that? Is that just curbside?
No, they were. To my understanding is
Yeah.
they can open, but there's supposed to be still 50%.
Oh, okay, so they
25%.
That was my
basically,
understanding. I just
but-
think it's important to let the public know
But
that.
it's
So
25%, but we filed the attestation, the attesting to the fact that we've had 5 or fewer cases.
yeah, okay, good deal.
And we had all these other checks and protocols in place that allowed us to open to more than 50%. So as long as it's, I don't know how they're monitoring it, but 50% of their capacity for that particular building.
Okay,
The
thank you.
fire marshal's capacity for a building would be a good.
I think that's what the city's using
That's
as the
what they
fire
use.
marshal's capacity, yes, sir.
And another thing that the public probably is not aware of, though, is that as of May 1, it's not just 5 active cases. You have to have, it is 5 active cases. not just 5 cases cumulative.
Right, it's 5 active.
Yeah.
So it's now 5 active.
Oh, okay.
So we have 1 active
That's
at this
correct.
point.
On that, one more question if I may. Out of the 5, 4 were travel related. Do we know anything about the 5th one, if that was travel related?
All of ours are travel
All
related.
travel related.
All of ours are
Okay,
travel related.
very good.
And I think, I think that's a good thing to know, is that all 5 of those were travel related for us, and that we didn't have any community spread. If we had had community spread, our pandemic phase would have jumped to phase 4 instead of phase 3.
Okay.
And we would have been a little bit more restrictive. Our operational priorities, public safety, again, is the top priority. We're continue to provide timely and accurate information to the public concerning the spread of the virus and ways to avoid becoming infected. Continue to work with the City of Kerrville Emergency Management, Kerrville Fire Department EMS, Peterson Regional Emergency Management, and Infection Control in developing tactics. PPE is still coming in. It's still coming in kind of slow. I continue to order it. Put in a couple of star requests last week for some additional PPE, being primarily vests and gloves. We have had some pushbacks came out that we've provided those for local nursing facilities and local physicians or whoever has not been able to secure any additional PPE. Mobile testing at the Youth Event Center stopped on this past Friday. The numbers had been reduced enough to where Peterson Regional believes that they can continue to run mobile testing at their urgent care facility as well as Peterson Regional at the hospital. The numbers that you have there are incorrect. These are the numbers for last week. I was not able to reach anybody, my contact at Peterson Regional this morning, to get the numbers for last week.
So they may still be accurate.
I think they're pretty close. You probably add about 25 or 30 maybe to that number at the most. For the number, instead of 106, probably closer to 150 samples set off. And again, everything that I've been notified is all returned negative. On Saturday, May 2nd, mobile testing was conducted by Texas Military Forces at the Kroc Center from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. 107 tests were conducted on individuals who contacted DSHS and made an appointment for that. You probably got a code red on Friday where I sent out the information about that testing. Texas Military Forces and Department of State Health Services had asked that we not advertise it until 48 hours out. So we sent out a code red on Friday with information on the mobile testing location as well as information on how to sign up. There's a phone number as well as a website for people that were displaying some type of symptoms similar to the flu or COVID-19, where they could go sign up, get an appointment, and get tested. Those test results are still pending at this time. I don't know what lab they sent them to, but I'm assuming a state lab, and hopefully we'll have those results tomorrow or the next day.
And there were 107?
107 individuals were tested.
That's a pretty high number. It's more than I expected.
It's a lot more than I expected. I'm guessing anybody that had a sniffle or a cough was allowed to come in and get tested. So
Doug, the screening now is going through a website? Because you said test, and there's a screening that goes before the test.
yes, they can call in if they're displaying some type of symptoms for COVID-19. They can call the phone number that was given out on the code red, and they'll basically do a screening over the phone, and then they'll get them an appointment.
And that could explain the high number.
Sure, a lot easier.
I heard this morning that their mobile testing was going to be done in Comfort this week, today or tomorrow or something. And so I think people have to call 48 hours in advance and make an appointment. But same thing, tell them what symptoms are. So it's the first time I've heard of mobile testing in the area, but
Well, the Department of State Health Services and the governor's offices has ordered mobile testing to go around the state. And DSHS Region 8 has has listed certain dates that are going to be done for all the counties in Region 8 if we ask for it.
So they're
And so-
apparently in Comfort this week.
So they have a date for Comfort,
Right.
yes, sir.
Unknown caller. Unknown caller.
I'm sorry.
Our public education and outreach, Peterson Regional still has their line open for contacting the nurse. It's 896-4200, extension 1, if anybody believes that they may have been exposed to COVID-19 or displaying symptoms, they can call that number and talk to the nurse. Kerr County, City of Kerrville EOC has been established. Again, that number for frequently asked questions for folks, individuals that want to know about businesses that may still be closed or those types of things, 258-1111, continues to operate Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Again, if they want to know about canceled local events, closed offices, schools, etc., those information's all kept at the call center. 87 COVID-19 related calls last week. Kerr County and the City of Kerrville websites continue to be updated with links to Peterson Regional, CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and the Department of State Health Services websites with information on COVID-19, how people can keep themselves safe, and ways to neutralize any viruses or things like that, ways to keep clean. Established a list of recovery resources. We're continuing to update that as information comes in about folks that are able to provide assistance to local citizens for food, utilities, rental assistance, those types of things. This list is both contained on the Kerr County and the City of Kerrville website. And then the last bullet there is, again, the Small Business Administration continues to provide disaster loans. Their economic injury disaster loan provides up to $2 million of assistance to folks. There's a website that they can go to and click on the link for assistance and apply. Any questions on anything?
Good report. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you all.
All right, we go to item 1.2, consider, discuss, take appropriate action regarding the local state of disaster due to a public health and economic emergency proclamation that was signed by Judge Kelly on March 24th, 2020, and extended until terminated by order of this Kerr County Commissioners Court on March 30th, 2020. I don't really think we need any action on this. It's just going to continue under that state of emergency that was declared by the judge, as stated. And our emergency, basically, we're just following the governor's guidelines.
I think one of the reasons it came out the other day too is the fact that the declaration has been established. It enables, I think, some flexibility for us in the budget too. So it's a good thing to keep it in place.
Okay. Judge, we're just getting ready to go to item 1.3 with no action on item 1.2.
Okay. So 1.3 is consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding Kerr County attestation that was filed with the Department of State Health Services on April the 30th. We mentioned that earlier. Last Thursday, I filed an attestation at 8 o'clock in the morning with DSHS that Kerr County had 5 or fewer positive COVID-19 cases. And by the afternoon, we'd received confirmation back from them that we were approved and qualified for our opening capacity to be expanded from 25% to 50%. And that was done last week. And at this point, I don't, there's a kind of a complicated formula as to whether or not we lose the ability to stay open to 50%. Not going to go into all the detail on that, but it looks pretty certain that we're not going to be closed back down to 25% unless we have a significant outbreak. So I think that's good news for Kerr County. Any other discussion about that?
I think it's for the public just to know the attestation that you signed last week is pretty broad into an analysis of what's going on in the county. It's not just a matter of just you said you decided to do it. There's a lot of kind of detailed documentation that went into that.
Well, there was a questionnaire from DSHS that Dub worked with me to get the information on, and it includes number of nursing homes, the jail facility that we have. It's a complicated matrix that they use to determine where we are with regard to the risk that we would be taking if we opened up. So,
So, but I just want the public to know, it wasn't just a quick decision, it was an analysis of the county-wide situation.
no. And as best I can tell, as I mentioned earlier, for those that didn't hear it, it looks like that Kerr County may be the largest county population-wise that was able to open up to 50%. And so that's quite an accomplishment for the DSHS says we have 57,000 people here. I don't know if we have 57,000, but I think with West Kerr County right now, we probably have over that. But be that as it may. But that's still quite an accomplishment to be, of all the counties that were able to open up, we were the most populated county to be able to do it. So I'm very proud of the way we handled things, and especially commend Dub for the way he's handled this emergency situation. Next item on the agenda is 1.4, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the Office of the Governor's Criminal Justice Division Coronavirus Emergency Supplement Funding Grant intent to apply. James Robles.
Good morning. Yes, through our ACOG, there's additional coronavirus emergency supplemental funding. This is a no match requirement grant. And before you today is just a letter of intent to apply for the grant.
I'll make a motion that we approve the letter that we will file for the grant application.
It's just a letter of intent to file
Letter of
a grant application.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Moser, to approve the filing of a letter of intent to apply for the grant for emergency supplemental funding. Any other discussion?
What would it be for? Where would we apply them? Any monies?
I don't know.
This is going to be through the ACOG, and it'll be for reimbursements or protective personal equipment, overtime for our law
Have we had
enforcement.
that?
I'm sorry?
Do we have?
I believe our sheriff is keeping track of the overtime, and we.
And Dub's got the
Sheriff Fairholster, we had, the whole time that the Peterson was running the outreach deal out at the ag barn, I had an officer out there working security for them. So all of that time and everything, because that took him away from his duties, when they were there. That's all. Part of that would be overtime, and the other part we're looking at, it's not so much direct overtime as it is time that he wasn't doing his normal duties. It took him away from his normal duties totally to do nothing but that for the whole time. So I think, which put us behind on that. The other thing is we spent several thousands of dollars on disinfectant and that to help keep it out of the jail and out of our building. And then we also had to spend a couple thousand more on computer equipment and cameras and that to be able to set up kind of a video conferencing computer Zoom type for inmates in the court and get that going. So yeah, we've had some pretty good expenses on that part that would help reimburse the county for.
And
Your knowledge, James?
Sheriff, I'm sorry, go ahead.
To your knowledge, I want to direct this to James. Has every department had additional expenses for the unit?
I don't believe every department, no. It's mostly law enforcement related.
There's also some equipment that we can get that would help sanitize patrol vehicles because, the thing is, like last night alone, we're still arresting people, we're still putting them in jail. I've got 155 in jail right now, got 30-something from other counties, and we had 5 arrested last night and 1 or 2 released. And we've got inmates scattered in jails all across the state that we're waiting to get picked up, but we're kind of holding off because those jails may have some issues inside their jail. So I'm trying to delay picking those inmates up. And so there's a lot of expense that comes into that and trying to sanitize and keep everything clean.
I'd like
Well-
to make I'm sorry. I was going to also comment that maintenance is.
Excuse me, I can't hear you, Jackie.
Maintenance has
Shields.
separators, so I don't know if that would be covered. I'm just pointing that out.
Good point.
So what I wanted to get out in the open is that we have incurred additional expenses that were unforeseen, specifically related to this whole virus thing, so that people don't think that we just automatically apply for something and belly up to the trough. There have been genuine expenses the county wasn't prepared to incur.
Well, the county, not prepared isn't exactly the right word. We were prepared, but there definitely were extra expenses, and a lot of them, that weren't so much in the budget for this, because you didn't see this coming. But not that we couldn't do it. And I think maintenance and us, yeah.
It added to your budget.
It definitely has added thousands to the budget, trying to keep everything clean.
And Sheriff, before you leave, I wanted to note that I did read in the newspaper this weekend, if you can believe what you read in the newspapers, that the jail in San Antonio in Bexar County has had almost 160 positive COVID-19 cases.
They had 78 just over the weekend alone jump
Right.
up. They've had the death of one of their detention officers, and they've got well over 100 inside the jail. And that's one of the issues that we're trying to keep from. You get it in the jail, you got serious issues right now, because I do get asked a lot of questions, and it is taxing on our employees. I've got one employee that has some a handicapped child, so that employee's gone on FMLA because they don't want to take it home to that child in case it spread. So we're having some manpower issues with that type of stuff. But such as anybody that comes into that building out there at all, whether you're in the administration part, inmate part, all get their temperature checked. Anybody coming into the jail get temperature and the questions asked as far as travel related or anything like that. If they're an inmate, they go into isolation immediately. If they cannot bond out immediately, they go into separation for 14 days, quarantine, which uses up all our separation cells. And of course at that, it takes extra manpower, because that can also be a suicide issue when you put somebody by themselves for that long. But we've got to, I feel we're kind of extreme, because if it does ever start in that jail, you'll have what happened to Bexar County. You can't get rid of it out of a jail. And we're disinfecting constantly everything. And so far, jail staff's been doing a remarkable job.
But I wanted to make sure that the public understood that our jail has 0 positive cases. You've done
We
a
have 0
commendable
and
job.
haven't had any and don't intend to.
Well, one of the things you did, Sheriff, was not bring in prisoners, inmates from other counties when this began. So that's not an additional expense, but it's a reduction in revenue. I don't think that will be applicable for the claim, for the application, for the grant.
Right,
But
yeah.
it's going to be an impact to the county.
It's a
budget.
pretty major impact. I mean,
Right.
we didn't totally quit housing. Like I said, we have about 35 now, okay? We were up to almost 80, and that's 80 at $50 a day per inmate, right? So I cut off immediately bringing in any more from other counties just because of the spread of it. We didn't get rid of the ones we had, so gradually they picked up ones here or there.
Right.
And, I mean, I'll be honest, we had 2 that were released to another county, and then ICE picked them up from that county, and about 20 days later, both of them tested positive in an ICE facility, okay? But they were too far out to have gotten it from our facility, and we didn't have it. So it's been a shuffling match in trying to make sure we don't get it in there.
Good job.
Yep. Okay, back to our agenda item, which is what, 1.4, has to do with the letter of intent.
I made the motion and Commissioner Moser second.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. 1.5, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the interlocal agreement with the UGRA for Guadalupe River crossing patrols. And I see Mr. Buck is here in the courtroom with us today.
I'll make a brief introduction, then turn it over to Mr. Buck. We've had an interlocal agreement with UGRA for a number of years.
2018 is the first year.
2018, where we are, our constables and deputy constables go out and do patrols on weekends, usually on their own time, and UGRA pays them directly, and the county participates by allowing the constables or deputy constables to use county vehicles. And that's the reason that there's an interlocal agreement, because they're using it. And it's been a very successful program. I talked to Director Gibbons about it. He says that he and Sean are the two that do it. They both like doing it. They think that it would be not effective if they did not go in county vehicles, because they drive up and people straighten up. And I think Ray can go into the purpose of it and how it got started a little bit.
They don't get shoved in the river?
Like,
I saw that one.
state, yeah, state.
And Commissioner Les, this is on their time.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mr. Buck?
It's been a very successful program, and certainly appreciate the county partnering with us on it. We started taking collecting data in 2010. We cleaned up 15 river crossings throughout the county on an annual basis. UDRA pays for that. We have a contractor who does that. 2010, we collected about 13,000 pounds. We actually weigh it, measure it before we take it to the dump. It peaked. It went up every year until 2017, where it peaked at 43,000 pounds. But I'm happy to note that in 2018, it dropped to about 33, and then last year it dropped down to about 28. We can't say for sure that the litter patrol is making that big an impact, but anecdotally, I do think it is making an impact, because they're at 3 different rivers crossing: Brinks, Ingram, and which one am I missing?
Are they Schumacher?
Brinks, Ingram.
Or
I'm missing one. Sorry.
maybe Center Point. Could be Center
Yeah,
Point.
Center Point, I think. So we got three crossing. Yes, Brinks, Hunt, and
And Center
Ingram.
Point. Oh, Ingram.
Yes, sir. So, but I do think it's effective. I think the staff that's out there do a great job. We've had a lot of good reports from them. They're very courteous. They come out in their uniform, and they actually take bags with them and they ask the people that are using the facilities, the river, or the bank, or what have you, and they say, pack it in, pack it out. That's our message: pack it in, pack it out. So once again, just a brief summary, but thank you for your participation, and I hope you approve this.
Do they also patrol the crossings other than at those 3? Like
No, sir. We've concentrated on those 3 because at the amount that we're paying per hour, we want to maximize the amount of time they're at one place. Because I think sometimes they sit and watch. They have to observe and see what people are doing.
So that's the most cost-effective way to do it, rather than spreading them so thin.
It has seemed that way.
Okay, good.
But it's been a good program. It's a
Yeah.
win-win, minimal cost to the county, and it's definitely a benefit to all taxpayers. And I'll make a motion to approve the agreement as submitted.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Letts and seconded by Commissioner Moser to approve the interlocal agreement with UGRA on the Guadalupe River crossing patrols. Any further discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Buck.
Thank you.
Item 1.6, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the recycle trailers. Commissioner Harris.
All right, I'm gonna have Shane come in here for maintenance and discuss this a little bit. Last week, when I first put this on the agenda, I wanted to talk about getting back to our routine of taking the trailers out. We suspended taking them to the different locations. Once we put it on the agenda, we found out, we got notice from that the city was going to discontinue taking the recycling out there at the landfill. Now, Shane's got some more information this morning, so go ahead, Shane.
All right, the recycle center or the transfer station where we take our trailers, that is still open to the county, and we'll still be able to do that. No problems there, and from what I understand, no charge, it is still free like it was before.
So people will not be able to take it out there individually, but the county will be able to take our trailers out there.
Yes,
Is that
yes, sir.
correct?
That, is there anything that we can do, like I mentioned in the last court meeting, I think there were 8 or 10 dumpsters there where people did take the recycling, not using the trailers, and they were totally full of, flattened cardboard, plastic bottles, all the recyclable stuff, not including glass. seems to me like there's something we could do with, since the county's using it that much, something we could do with the city to enable people to still utilize that. Because a lot of people just don't use the trailers, but they do use those dumpsters. And the trailers are full also. So the trailers are gonna be really full.
Yeah, well, one thing that Shane and I discussed this morning is getting back on our routine, but maybe since Republic is still gonna take care of the city for recycling, maybe taking that one tray that we left there at the maintenance 24/7, maybe going out to the outlying areas like Center Point and Hunt and Turtle Creek and not having it there. So using the 2 trailers that we do have out and about more often. Because I know Jody and I have gotten quite a few calls in the last few days, last week, from especially Hunt people out there. They're recyclers, and I'm getting calls. Their garages are full. They're ready to do something with it.
Well,
So-
the message being wherever they're from.
Sure.
We don't know where they're from.
Right.
But we do know that 8 dumpsters are filled, okay? And that they're really utilized. I use those myself all the time. And I've never been there by myself. There's always multiple cars there recycling. So I think we should contact the city, okay? And see what it would take for them to keep those dumpsters open for since they're taking our trailers, why can't we just have people still go in there and put them in the dumpster? I'm sure it's costing the city some funds, but it may be something we can work in agreement with the city to do.
Well, I'm not understanding that. Are you saying we would take over their dumpsters?
No, I'm saying, right now, they provide the service. They don't charge us for it. Maybe it's an expense that they're trying to reduce. So what is that expense, and what could the county do to offset that expense, or to enable those dumpsters at the at the landfill to remain open for county residents?
It is an expense, and then
Yeah.
City Manager McDaniel sent me an email. I think it's $60,000 a year that they're trying to spend on the budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought it was probably a budget thing, so
Right.
$60,000 a year. Okay, so I think I'd like for us to, I don't know if it's in the form of a motion, I'd be happy to interact
Explore.
with the city and see what we might do, or, and bring that back to Commissioner's Court.
I think part of the issue also is a lack of demand for the recycled product.
Yeah,
that's
It's
it.
part of this
No
whole.
ROI.
Well, it is, that's
And
what,
and we really need to get to meet with Republic and find out, is this stuff going to the landfill, or is it going to be recycled?
Well, I called them and I asked, my concern was for people in the county to be able to bring the recycling materials in. If we weren't gonna be able to use the trailers, I wasn't sure what the situation was. And they said that people can bring the recycling materials, that's gonna be stopped as of next Saturday. So through next Saturday, you can take your stuff to the dump. After that, you can't take it. And there's no market for them. There's no market for recyclables. So
Well, that
where is
doesn't
it
make
gonna
a-
end up? I don't know.
that doesn't make a lot of sense, since they're picking it up all over the city, recyclable material, taking that there. They're taking our trailers. So let's just say that that's 80% of what they get. So they're saying 20% we're not gonna do, okay? So you can't say that it's, and I'm sure the value has gone down.
Well, you don't know where it's gonna end up, is my point.
Yeah.
You don't know where it's going.
That's a separate subject. We separate the
Not
variables.
really, if there's no
Right now, we're
return.
talking about it must be they're keeping the recycling service available to everybody in the city. They're keeping it available to people in the county who put it in a trailer. That's a fact. Where it goes, I don't know, okay? Now, there's an additional 8 dumpsters out there, falls in the same category. We don't know where it goes either. It goes the same place the other stuff goes. I asked somebody in the city one time, do you really recycle that material? I asked them that 6 months ago, because we don't separate. And they said, oh yeah, it goes down and gets recycled and sold. But anyway, I think it's I'd be happy to contact the city and see what it takes for us to keep those small portions still open, other than just the trailers.
My point is though that if it's not really recycling,
That's right.
what's the point? Then we're just trashmen. We're just subsidizing certain kinds of trash.
Right.
If it's really being recycled, that's one thing, but if it's not really being recycled, I'm not in favor of doing it.
Well, let's look at the trailers then, okay? Let's shut down the trailers. Because it's the same argument.
If it's not, if nothing's being recycled,
Right.
I agree with you.
Okay,
I agree
perfect.
with.
And based on what I
Yeah,
heard,
I agree with that, right.
based on what I heard, it sounds like, and I have one more person to call, but it sounds like Republic is really not interested in recycling.
Right.
That's the deal. If you think you're recycling and then it goes to the landfill anyway,
Well, then we
And we
can,
just became what Commissioner Letts
Yes.
said, we're the trash man, and we're paying extra money for that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I will then
I agree with that, okay?
defer to Commissioner Baloo and let him continue running his traps and figure out what's going on.
Go for it. And then we can, if that's the case, then we'll just eliminate our trailers too.
Well,
Save
it
a
may
lot of
not
money.
be, but we'll
Right,
find
we'll
out.
find out.
Well, let's hope not, but we'll
No,
wait and
but,
see
well,
what.
don't say hope not. If he finds out that it's not being recycled, that's an expense we don't need.
Exactly. But let's hope that it is
Yeah.
being recycled. That's what I mean.
Then we'll go back to the dumpsters.
Right.
So we'll pass on this and continue our suspension of the recycling trailers, I assume, and wait to hear from Commissioner Berlin.
I didn't ask, I wanted to ask you if you talked to anybody at Republic.
I did. I talked to him just this morning.
What's the guy's name?
I have his name available. Barry Lovelace.
Yes, very low.
And now I'll add some other stuff to it. Some of the reason why they're cutting back on it is one is the overall cost. From what I'm understanding, I'm getting educated on this also, is that a lot of this recycle, it is being sent overseas to be processed. And a lot of these countries are where it's going, they're scaling that back. They don't want it, or no, they're not dealing with it anymore. So that's, if we keep recycling or taking all this recycle, we don't have any place to take it anyhow, because it's not being shipped to where it's to be reprocessed or whatever. So that was another reason for them to scale all this back. A lot of recycle companies or recycle is being scaled back because of that. So this is just not just a Kerr County problem.
Okay?
Well, the one thing that I would point out is that recycling is not a constitutionally or statutorily mandated duty of the county. It's something that we do voluntarily because it's a good work. And I just want to go on the record for that.
Good point.
Okay.
Okay, item 1.7, consider discussion take appropriate action to reconsider court order number 38042, which closed playgrounds in the Flat Rock Park and Lions Park. Commissioner Harris.
Yes, I visited with Commissioner Mosher last week because we were kind of together on this when we suspended the use of the playground equipment, and we're trying to get back towards normal, and I think it's time to maybe rescind that court order and go back. I think people are going to do as much as they're going to do. We've been dealing with this Wuhan virus for a while, and people they're ready. They know how to take care of themselves. I think it ought to be an individual responsibility to take care of yourself. If your immune system is weak, then stay home or whatever. If you're worried about your kids, worry about them. But I think it's time. Commissioner Mosher, what do you think?
No, I agree. As a matter of fact,
Well, I
you'll
move
make
that
the
we
motion, I'll
rescind
second it.
Okay, I move that we rescind that court order, which is number 38042, and allow the playgrounds to be used again.
And I'll second that, and I'll make a comment. Like I said, this weekend there were a lot of people in the park, they're utilizing it. I think the children need to have access to that playground equipment. It's used a lot, not overly used, but and I think the statistics show from the medical group that the children are less susceptible or being able to accommodate COVID virus. And it's not anything that the adults really interact with in the playground equipment. It's just the kids. And believe it or not, one of the things that they use a lot out there is just the sand, okay? So the sand is roped off. So I think it's the right move in the right direction. And since this county is, all of our COVID issues have been related to travel, I think it's the right thing to do.
Any other discussion? Okay, the motion's been made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Moser, to rescind order, Court Order 38042, which closed the playgrounds at Flat Rock Park and Lions Park. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. 1.8, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to address the reopening of departments within the county government. Commissioner Harris.
Well, much like the playground equipment, I think we need to be pointing towards normal again. And that includes the county government, our departments, and what have you. And I thought all 5 of us need to start discussing that, where we go from here. Bring back maintenance to full staff and some of our others. And again, we can practice social distancing and stuff, but we need to get back to normal from here on forward, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that the key is the social distancing, and we do have certain departments, one, animal control, which makes that very, very difficult. And I talked with Reagan last week, and I said, start trying to get back to normal, but you have a unique situation where the animal control officers are in a room where you can't get 6 feet apart.
Right.
But at the same time, try to get back to normal best you can, and he is doing that, which will mean also starting to take more animal intakes back in as the surrenders start opening up. He is probably going to limit the volunteers for the time being for the same social distancing reason, but he's already doing it. But I think that all the county departments should, get back to. I think we don't need to be like. I think a good example would be OSSF. They were in their individual offices. They can be back to full staff in my mind. So, but then on the other side you have HR, where as soon as while that construction's undergoing, it's pretty crowded. It can be. So as soon as that is finished, they can get back to full staff. So it's a little bit of discretion, but I agree totally.
Sure.
Get back to regular operations.
And I guess
And there are places, you mentioned the proximity, IT is an example, everybody in one little room, so they'd have to use best judgment.
And I guess we still have some situations with school not being in operational. Some of the members of the staff are still working that, so they're working remotely. So that's not saying they can't do that. Or are we saying that? We're saying that everybody needs to be here, or we're allowing people to work remotely?
Well,
also?
like I pointed out, I want to be heading in that direction to normal. There are going to be some.
I'm sorry.
There are going to be some bumps in the road. I still think people need to take care of their own self, be responsible for themselves. If they have a weakened immune system or something, they need to realize that, and it's up to them.
But I just think we need to be clear what we're telling the staff.
Well, why don't we do this the way we started? We started by letting department heads determine this and talking to their staff, and then we could go back that same direction.
That's good.
That makes sense.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Good. Let department heads decide.
And I think I'd encourage the liaisons to visit with each of the department, and then in our next meeting, we can have an update as to what the operations are in various
I think
departments.
that's a good way to do it. Okay, cool.
So we'll.
If I can add that if department heads have questions about that childcare that Commissioner Harris, I think, just pointed out, or maybe it was Mosier, they can contact Jennifer Doss, our HR director. She's got a list compiled that has guidance about the federal protections for people who don't have childcare right now.
Okay, good deal. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move on to the approval docket. 2.1, pay the bills.
All right. Bills for the court today are Kerr County $532,984.91. Airport $272.30. Adult probation $2,378.51. And 198th District Attorney forfeiture, $147.72.
Move to pay the bills.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Baloo to pay the bills as presented. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Okay. Item 2.2, budget amendments.
There are none.
2.3, late bills.
There are none.
Okay. 2.4, auditor reports.
Yes, we do have one for the county treasurer. And that's been submitted to you guys.
Do I have a motion to approve the auditor's report on the
Make the motion.
county treasurer?
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Baloo, seconded by Commissioner Harris to approve the auditor's report on the treasurer's office. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0.
Judge, before we go back on the bills, just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Looks like we bought most of our vehicles that were in the budget.
Yes, sir.
Are those all in the sheriff, or are they elsewhere too?
I believe there was 5 in the sheriff for this particular round, but we did have one for animal control, and there was another one, I think.
Okay, just curious.
But I believe we, at this point, purchased all the vehicles we budgeted.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, item 2.5, monthly reports. Commissioner Harris?
Don't have any.
Okay. Item 2.6, court orders.
Yes, we have the court orders from our April 27th meeting, 38060 through 38068. They're all looked in order. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Baloo to approve the court orders as presented. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Information agenda, status reports from department heads. Shane?
Yes, sir. Okay, this is some more update on, maybe some more, we have been building these, I call them COVID shields for all the offices. So far I've built for the tax office, clerk's office, district clerks, JP4, treasurer's office, JP1, JP3. Currently working on road and bridge to finish theirs up. And I've spent $1,268.74 on plexiglass, $454.55 on the 1x2s, the boards to make the frame and whatnot, for a total of $1,723.29 for specifically for the COVID response. Now, I do have some other expenses maybe for, more cleaning products that above and beyond what we normally do, but I still have more of that coming in because it's on back order. We haven't been charged for it yet. And that's what I have for that. And like I say, we are getting supplies as we need them to sanitize the courthouse, and we do have masks at the moment. I got some at Gibson's for a box of 50. They were $70. We just bought enough to sustain us. We do have some ordered for a lot less, and we'll probably won't get those until the middle of this month, or the end of this month, before we can have those. In HR, I have been running. The building project is really so much an issue. I mean, it's just small stuff that we have to finish up. It was a half door. Where my real problem is being able to get the guys to do the smoke detector installation. I have been dealing with those guys since as far back as March 20th is when he said he was doing the online application for the permit to do the job. He couldn't use my permit like the plumbers or electricians. They have to have their own permit. And he's supposedly been doing this, or was doing this on March 20th. That's been 6 weeks ago. And March 26th, he said he was going to reach out to the fire marshal. I still have not had any actions at this point yet in regards to getting my smoke detector installed and the audio visual that's required by the fire code, because we have 3 people in that office now.
Is it the holdup with our contractor, or whoever does our smoke detectors, or the city?
I'm thinking it's more with the contractor, because, you know, he's even been out there when we, and looked at the construction work and trying to get an idea where to put stuff, even when we had just wood frames up, and that's been a while. So,
You might mention to our contractor, there's other contractors out there if he doesn't get this fixed.
yes, sir.
Because it's a hindrance to that office, not being able to.
Well, since the public's watching YouTube, I would say that we need to let this contractor know that we're going to replace him if this thing doesn't get finished right away.
Okay. All right, I'll pass that information along, because I'm getting kind of frustrated with it, because this should have been done a while back, and I'm still waiting for this to happen with the smoke detector installation and the audio visual. You know, this should have been done a long time ago. And I know it's kind of frustrating the HR staff, because they're, you know, having to work in separate offices, or, you know, and because of spacing, they're having to show up.
Well, Mr. Evans, I'd like you to come back next week and report on the status of this. I'm not going to ask the name of that contractor today, but if it's not, we don't have progress this next week, I am going to ask you to tell me his name next week. Okay?
Yes,
I have a question. The contractor was selected. I don't think the court selected the contractor, did we?
No.
I think you selected.
Well,
So where I'm going with that, you've got the authority to do what you need to do. You don't need to have the court take action.
But this is, I'm guessing this is a question, it's the same contractor that handles our fire detectors, correct?
yes, sir, they do the biannual inspections on it. Also, they did the recent, in 2000, or the last fire alarm upgrading. They're the contractors that did the work.
But this isn't a modification to their existing contract yet.
Or the modification to their existing system.
Well, but it's additional work for them, so they're charging you some way to
Yes,
do
sir.
that.
Yes,
So,
they will.
well, my point being, it seemed to me like you got the authority to tell them to deliver on the services that are required.
I agree that he's got the authority.
Right.
I'd like for you to invite them to come to the Commissioners Court next week so we can talk to them directly. Find out what the problem is,
Okay.
If it's not fixed.
if it's not done. Yeah.
And I think the other issue that I visited is when the air conditioning motor got hot, caught a fire, whatever you want to say it did, that smoke detector in that room did not go off.
That's correct.
And was a sensitivity issue, and that's a concern to me.
That's what I was gonna say, that's a concern, because we evacuated the entire courthouse, but the smoke alarm never went off, and should have.
The contractors on my list at the moment.
Something didn't get inspected properly.
Right. Anyway,
Okay.
That would
thank you.
Shane, keep me posted this week on that.
All right.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you.
Any other department head reports? Elected official reports? Sheriff?
Real quick, Sheriff, if I may, I hear Shane talking about masks. If you need masks, give us a holler. We do have plenty. One thing that was nice, Texas Association of Counties sent out 200 to all of us in the sheriff's offices, and gloves also, so I thought that was good. And through Doug Thomas, our emergency management, we've been able to come up with quite a few masks, a lot of capabilities there. In fact, I've reached out to Mason County just in case they need some. It's a smaller community, and they've got the state involved now, so they probably won't, but they could. The only other thing I would say is if the county offices start opening, the one thing I would recommend, and I'm not a maintenance person, but I do think we need to get maintenance back on staff full time, because I think there's a lot of wiping down and cleaning and just disinfecting that needs to be done after anybody even touches anything. That's what we're doing out at the sheriff's office, besides the temperature checking, doorknobs, everything get wiped, and I know there's not enough maintenance staff and probably supplies to do that countywide, but I would sure recommend it, because none of us want it to go above that 5 cases, no matter what. That would hurt the businesses too much.
Shane told me this morning that they're ready to get back to full staff. Forward.
Can you provide some of those masks here in the courthouse someplace? that
I
they
have
sent-
provided some.
Yeah. We have
That
some.
they have.
I didn't know it, so that's a good thing to know.
You're non-essential. Oh, I didn't say that.
Well, I agree with that.
No.
No, that's,
just
well,
joking.
good, thank you. That's a good thing to have. I
But
think
no,
just
we
having-
have provided some of those, the good N95 ones, but we also have
Good
some
deal.
other ones that we use that,
And so that the public knows, Texas Association of Counties also delivered hand sanitizer to us.
Yes.
What, about 100 of them or so?
48,
48?
the little ones.
made by courtesy.
No.
They're made by.
They don't want us to advertise that.
Oh,
Oh,
never mind.
I'm
No,
just saying,
we were
I was
able
given
to
strict
find-
instructions not to tell people who provided those to us. 'Cause
We
they were-
Couldn't tell by
provided-
looking at the
Right.
bottom.
They were provided free.
says it on the bottle, but just.
We actually have
just
gallons
vodka,
of
that's
it.
all you gotta do.
But the biggest thing that we found, and it was hard to find at first, and people don't realize, is the copy machines. Everybody goes in and uses them, okay? You can't just spray them with disinfectant. One of mine did that, and we had that maintenance come out and fix it, the repair guy. But it's the wipes that you can use on them, and those wipes are hard to find. Now, we've got tubs that have, 1,000 of them in it. We were able to find and get large, but, it is something that needs to be looked at. And it's not just maintenance people. We have our own people wiping down everything and doing it after anyone else touches it.
Right.
So,
Very good, thank you. Any other elected official reports? Liaison commissioner reports.
I'd like to,
Go ahead.
I'd like to point out that we had a longtime employee, our county extension agent Roy Walston, retired last week, and because of everything going on, it wasn't a regular celebration or retirement party or anything like that, but he served us well at this county for a long, long time. Brought a lot of good things to recognition to our county, as well as helping produce some very good young people, and he served us well. And hats off to Roy for his.
Well, and likewise, Judge Keith Williams retired last week
Without a
also.
doubt.
And has been a faithful servant to the county for over a decade.
Have some on the Veteran Service Officer. Marty is going to be in training with the Air Force from June 22nd to September the 27th. So that's 3 months that she will be out. I think she's got everything coordinated with Jenna. So I'll meet with them this week with HR and make sure everything is, knowing them though, they've got it all squared away, but just to make sure. So that's going to be additional workload on Jenna, being a part-time person to carry on that function. And what she's doing is not COVID-19 related, it's just training that is for Marty. And the library is open today with restricted capabilities, but I'm not sure exactly what that is, but
It's 50%
it's a good thing to know.
50% capacity.
Right.
Well, that's what it said, but I heard something on some local radio station this morning that it was a little bit different than just 50%. I'm not sure what it is, but anyway, supposedly open. That's all I have.
Anything else?
Oh, what add one other thing on economic development. The company that's moving forward on possibly locating a significant business in Kerrville is still, in Kerr County, is still there. It's been slowed down just a little bit with the COVID-19 thing, but it still has a flashing green light on it, so.
The only thing that I would contribute is I do have my proposed budget ready to roll out, but I'm not going to roll it out today because of personal reasons. I'll roll it out later this week, do a public announcement and get copies out to everybody, and then we'll put it on the agenda to discuss next Monday.
Okay.
Our elected officials or department heads, are we going to get a copy of your proposed budget that would affect our individual departments at least, so that we can start preparing also for the budget negotiations?
Right. And I think, when do they have access into Encode?
I'll have to check the schedule. I believe it's next week.
Yeah, it's next. I think you have access to Encode
But
next
I
week.
don't know if it's going to show on there when you pull it up, the proposed budget, is it?
Should.
We'll have to show us how to get to it so we can see
what they're doing, because right now it just shows what was approved last
Not
year.
with they, it's with he.
And it's just proposed.
Right.
And
I agree, but we.
I will give you a preview of coming attractions that we're within $12,000 of a balanced budget this year, is what I'm proposing. So that's from 2.7 million deficit, it was 2.7 million deficit last year to 12,000 deficit this year. Less than 12,000 is what
But
I'm
it is a
proposing.
different year. Most years, there's not a proposal on file until all at the end. So that's why this year's a little different, the way you're doing it, Judge, we'd like to see it.
So we're doing like the other counties do it, so. We're
Coming
trying.
soon.
I want to remind everybody tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo, so shoot off your fireworks.
Okay. There's no.
Buy some fireworks.
We are going to have some discussion in executive session, is that correct? No, I'm looking at Commissioner
No,
Harris.
I don't think so.
Okay, so we'll pass on that? So there being no executive session items, is there any other business before the court today? If not, court is adjourned.